ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Wrestling with the Future. This is part 2 of our conversation, television wrestling and AEW Full Gear Fallout. I'm joined once again by my esteemed and affable co-host, lovable, luggable Jeff the Ref Robinson, and the most knowledgeable man next to Jeff that I know, Mike Movie Maker Messier. Hey, Mikey, how you doing?
I'm good. Glad to be here again with Jeff the Ref and Angelo, and I've put on my thinking glasses because I feel like we're going to have a thinking episode this time.
Oh, man, I'm just glad to be here. It's been a crazy day for me. Phew, man, let me tell you.
There you go, Mikey. How you feeling? Our glasses on.
I feel left out. I don't have any.
I'm going to search pair. Jeff, how you doing, pal? You had a busy day.
Yeah, I've been busy, making contacts, making phone calls, taking care of a few things here and there, and handling ref business, if you will.
Beautiful. Well, let me tell everybody that as of this morning, I've got confirmation definite for 2 weeks from today. We will have former WWE superstar, former American gladiator, former Las Vegas policeman, Rico Costantino.
That's a big one. That's a good one.
Yeah, big guest. Now, Jeff, what do you know about Rico's career? You're just a young guy, young whippersnapper.
Well, I mean, I can tell you basically what I've heard and what I do know of him. He got started wrestling. He was down there in Ohio Valley, and he pretty much was going nowhere. He was treading water, and they didn't see any. The WWE and the executives up there did not see anything in his character at that point in time.
Right.
Jim Cornette said, "Let me turn him heel and see what happens."
Yeah.
They turned him heel, and then the character Rico came to be, and then he was able to go on over to the WWE, it was WWE. And I'll tell you what, I mean, he was there for a cup of coffee, as some people may say. And in a lot of people's minds, that may be the case because they only saw him on TV for maybe 1.5 to 2 years. But he was there, he may have been there even longer, like just doing the house show circuit and that kind of thing.
He did a lot of house shows, Jeff.
They brought him in as the manager for the Samoans. When it was Umaga and his brother when they were at the 3-minute warning. And he was very, I guess you would say, eccentric was his character.
Yeah, keep in mind that word, Mikey, because we're going to talk about that. I'm actually going to tie that in to Nyla Rose.
Okay.
Watch how I do this. Watch the master work.
With Billy and Chuck in the wedding, the gay wedding.
What I was getting ready to get at was he did do the Billy and Chuck wedding deal. Then he became their manager, and he was actually their hairstylist. And then he was actually with Nadia, who was a member of the Tough Enough.
Right. Yes.
Back to what we had talked about before, the Tough Enough winner.
Yeah.
And, he's had quite the career, honestly. And then, it was like after he left that, though, he didn't really do anything. And I don't know.
He went to WCW for a cup of coffee.
That had to be like right before they shut. No, because they had shut their doors by the time he had even come into WWE.
He was there for literally a cup of coffee.
Then he had to be there. He had to be there before he went to WWE because they shut their doors in 2001.
Not that long.
I'm just letting you know. If he was there, it was before his WWE run. I'm saying after his WWE run. And I know that lately he's been under he's had a lot of health issues, which
we're going to talk about that too.
And he has been open and honest about that. So I'm not disclosing something I shouldn't there. So
he actually, Jeff, wants to come on and get some things off his chest and kind of clear the air about his health, how he's doing now.
Okay.
And so we're not going to go in, delve deep into that one right now. But you mentioned the eccentric nature of Rico, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Talking about Nyla Rose, it seems to be, and we've seen this throughout wrestling history, we had Gorgeous George, who played an effeminate character. We had Adrian Street, exotic Adrian Street, played an exotic character, very effeminate, right? It's okay for the guy to do that, but it's not okay for the girl to be masculine. Why do we have a problem with that?
I don't really know what the issue is there, other than the fact that it's with Nyla you're treading on a line there that that has never been crossed before with her being transgender, and it's never been broached before. It's a subject that's never been approached. It's never been brought up.
Okay. Let's talk about Sonny Kiss.
Okay.
Sonny Kiss is a man.
Absolutely.
The first time I saw Sonny Kiss, I thought it was a woman.
Same
complete.
Guilty.
And complete with a halter top.
Right.
Okay? What's the difference? I have a problem with this. Am I the only guy that's got a problem with this? And by the way, I saw Nyla's very first match ever. I have it on tape because I'm the one that taped it.
So
What's that?
I don't know. I guess what your question is why does wrestling have a problem with it? Is what you're getting at, or I don't know that it's wrestling as much as it is that over the years. Here we go. Over the years, wrestling has been presented as this masculine sport.
Okay.
And let's face it. Up until recent time, we've been a very homophobic society, and that being said, when you have a gay character, that's automatically going to draw heel heat because you don't like the gay man. You don't like gays. You don't like them being effeminate and over the top about it.
Jeff, let me mention one name to you.
Go for it.
Pat Patterson.
No. I'm not saying that behind the scenes that they don't have a problem with it. You're asking me, I'm saying the fans. I don't think wrestlers in general even have a problem with it. They don't care.
I think you're right. I don't think they do care.
If they can make money, they don't care.
Why should we?
I think it's society in general. That's what I'm getting at. That is my point. I think that we've got to progress past that nature as it has to be.
Okay.
That you can't have a gay man being fan friendly.
You brought up a very good point that actually Mike and I discussed in the first half of the show,
okay,
which was the demographic target audience.
Yeah.
This niche audience, Cody has that there is a market audience, their core audience, that they're not going beyond that. They're not going to cater to the casual fan, but they will cater to their diehard fan, their fan base. Why then does anybody care if they're not going beyond the realm of wrestling?
I don't think that they should. I don't think that
because society doesn't know who Nyla Rose is.
No, I think it's just the wrestling world that's trying to make a big deal out of it, and I don't know why. I really don't. I don't know why.
Did they care about China?
But China was a woman.
But China looked like a man.
But China was born a woman, and they have proof of that. I am not taking anything away from what Nyla is. What I'm getting at, you're trying to get me to go to what the core of it is. I don't know, other than it's just people live in that fear bubble that they're afraid of anything new. And they don't want to go past that bubble of, they don't want to accept it and go, okay, she's transgender, and therefore we got to accept her as a female. I mean, personally, if it were me booking, I would be, and you want to be different, you take her who is a transgender male who identifies as a female. I put her in the male, have her wrestle in the men and fucking run a roughshod on them. Honestly, because she's bigger than half of them on that roster. And I would take Sonny Kiss and put Sonny Kiss over on the female roster. Because to watch Sonny Kiss wrestle, he wrestles like a female.
You don't hear me arguing with you, do you?
No, and I'm not taking away from Sonny Kiss. But when he wrestles like a female.
I know.
And
We just saw a match take place. Just Sami Callihan and Tessa Blanchard. Intergender match.
And
Why not take Nyla and put her in with a guy?
I don't know. I mean, the intergender is becoming more and more of the regular. No, the intergender thing is becoming more and more regular on the independents. It is.
They need to hire me as a booker. I just solved their problem.
Well, the independents are doing more and more of the intergender thing, and I don't know that you're going to.
You're absolutely right. Well, I'm going to stop you there, Jeff. You're absolutely right. I saw a show recently. There was a transgender male wrestling as a female on that show. Not going to tell you their name. But no one in the audience knew, and no one in the audience cared. Had they known, guess what? They still wouldn't have cared.
No, they wouldn't. And I think today's audience doesn't care about if it's an intergender match and you have a male versus female, but where you're going to get into it is when you are a publicly traded company like WWE and then you're a brand new company like AEW, you're going to have the groups out there that come down on you going, you're promoting male and female violence and we don't support that. No matter how much you try to tell them it's part of a show, no matter how much you tell them that they're working together, no matter how much you tell them any of it.
We just went down that rabbit hole, Mikey and I, in discussing the Attitude Era. Okay?
Right.
Remember, first of all, Vince Russo, and I've never met him, never spoke to him. Vince Russo was a horrible wrestling personality. But what Vince Russo did exceedingly well was he knew people.
Yeah.
He knew the pulse of society because he came from that society. Okay? During the Attitude Era, we saw everything under the sun.
Right.
We saw male versus female, bra and panties matches. We saw a female bodybuilder wrestle a guy. Yeah. We saw everything. There wasn't much left that wasn't seen. Okay? Why can't an educated wrestling writer who has spent time in the business figure out what to do with this girl?
Because I don't think that AEW knows. They don't want to go down. They don't want to promote
her. They obviously knew something.
I don't think that they want to promote Nyla Rose as being transgender and make a big deal out of it.
They don't have to.
I think Jeff just hit upon it, Angelo, which is AEW for whatever reason.
Hey, Mikey.
Hey, Jeff. Hey, Angelo. That AEW has chosen, and to me, it's political correctness at the expense of good storytelling, which is AEW, it would seem to be, at least as of now, week 6 of Dynamite in the can, that they don't want to have a storyline about her being transgender because they feel that even touching the subject is not politically correct or disrespectful. My point, Jeff, the ref, and to anyone listening, is that, to me, to have this, pink elephant in the room of conversation, this hot topic like The View, Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar could be talking about Nyla Rose and professional wrestling. If they were to play this angle right, which they're not, they would make it a big deal. They would have another women's wrestler be the champion, like a Britt Baker or whoever, and refuse to defend the title against Nyla. And they say, why won't you defend your title against Nyla? She's the number one contender. And the champion says, but she was not born a woman. And then you're off to the races. You have a 3 or 4 month storyline.
And you make Nyla the face that way.
What do you think, Jeff?
No, I think you would make Nyla the face that way.
Yeah.
You could bring focus
to
you could bring focus to a political issue that a lot of people don't want to touch.
Right.
Oh, that's another rabbit hole that we went down, but go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, and you don't, a lot of people don't want to mix their politics and wrestling, but let's face it, what has drove most of your best storylines has been political.
It's funny that you say that because in the first half of the show, we talked about one particular company that is purposely mixing politics and wrestling.
What company is that?
WWE. WWE. They've done it for years. Including bringing presidential candidates on their show. Mikey, tell me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. And what I was saying, Jeff, the ref, is that the WWE is in, they support financially Donald Trump's campaign in 2016.
No, it wasn't WWE corporate. It was actually Vince McMahon private.
Okay, fair enough. Vince McMahon, who owns the WWE, or 48% of it, supported Trump.
But that's how they would get around that.
Sure. But my point, a bigger issue, what I was saying is that I don't like wrestling mixed with politics. There's two different things here. There's politics as far as money. The WWE supports Trump. McMahon supports Trump. Trump has Linda McMahon on one of his political office spots.
Right.
They're all supported by Fox News, and Fox now has SmackDown. Now, what we're saying about AEW and this Nyla Rose, to me, that's like a social politics or pop culture.
That's what I'm getting at.
It's not about political office. Nyla Rose is not running for office. Tony Khan's not running for office. It's a social issue. To me, it's a story that could be on The View. It could be on Jimmy Fallon. It could be discussed. AEW.
They could get mainstream coverage out of it. They could.
Right. Just like Goldust did. Right. Goldust was on the Conan O'Brien show in 1995 or 96 for doing very little. But Nyla Rose could be on every talk show of the country talking about pro wrestling, talking about AEW, her story. It could be a big deal.
We'll go back to really quick. The Rico, when he did the whole Billy and Chuck wedding deal, and everybody was buying into that, and they bought into the LGBTQ whatever community they are.
Right.
They bought into it so much that they sent them a gift, and they were on Good Morning America.
Yeah.
So if you have somebody who's legit transgender, who's not poking fun at that community, who can come out and be a speaker and pro for that community and make them a face. You don't make them a heel. You do not make Nyla the monster heel that they're trying to make her.
Right.
You can make her, you could have her and Awesome Kong facing each other.
I'd love to see that match.
And you have wasted in a battle royal.
And you would have, the crowd would be biting on it and totally forgetting. When I look at Nyla, I don't go, that used to be a man that now wants to be a woman. I don't look at that. I see it and I go green wrestler coming along her way and coming, doing her thing.
I look at Nyla, and to me, she's a woman.
There you go.
She's got great legs.
She's got all
a nice rack.
You would have people who would go down that hole, and again, the social issue. And I've seen it brought up by females in the wrestling business who have said, if you promote Nyla that way as a female, you're going to disservice. This is what they've said, not my own. This is not Jeff the ref's thinking.
Okay.
This is what I have read from females in the wrestling business. And if they want to come on our show, we'll be more than happy to put them on here and let them have their opinion. But what they've said is it does a disservice to the women in the business today and from the past who kind of paved the way for the women to get to where they are today. And then they point to the fact that it did take 34 years for a WrestleMania to be main evented by women. And their whole thing is, if you're gonna separate men from women and have the women's world title, the women's championship, the women's this, then how are you going to add what they've said? How are you going to have a former man being a woman's champion?
How are you going to have a woman carry the world title?
I don't know, and that is a subject that I
ask Tessa Blanchard.
Tessa has not won it yet. They're just talking about it right now.
Okay, well, the point is, the match is made.
The match is made, but are they going to actually pull the plug and do it?
I think, yeah.
I think
it's going to happen.
And here's why. Here's why I think they'll do it is because Impact needs that boost. They want to be the talk of the internet for a little bit, and right now they do got a little underground buzz going on. Let's face it.
I think they're going to do it for a couple of very valid reasons. First of all, Sami Callihan and Tessa Blanchard are making the rounds on every major podcast they can make.
I know. I've heard it, and I've heard what they've said.
And Tully's been asked about it. And he's talking it up.
I mean, I heard, I forget who it was. They asked him about it, and it was somebody prominent. And they were on a podcast, and they were talking about it. And he just said, do you really want to go down there, or are they going, or is it just Impact taking a shot in the dark trying to get ratings, a ratings grasp?
That's the question. Is it a valid question? Yeah.
What do you think, Mike?
I think that Impact, look, I've lost favor, or Impact has lost favor with me for various reasons. One of those reasons was because they have a hard time keeping on to whatever top talents they get. They get Alberto Del Rio for a cup of coffee, and then he misbehaves or whatever, and he's gone. They get Cody Rhodes for a cup of coffee, and then he's gone. They had Mike Bennett and Maria Kanellis. So I've already lost favor with Impact. People have been telling me for 6 months or a year that Impact's getting better. But when I see them do things like Ken Shamrock, a legitimate badass, legitimate UFC Hall of Fame career, and he's flopping around with Joey Ryan, I have no interest in watching Impact. So Impact,
I have a problem with that whole thing.
Same here.
Right. So for me, my point is Impact Wrestling.
You want to talk about an embarrassment to wrestling? Let me tell you something, and I'm going to say this publicly. Joey Ryan is far more an embarrassment than Nyla Rose will ever be.
Absolutely. 10 times wholeheartedly support you on that one. I couldn't agree with you more. Go ahead, Mike.
Joey Ryan has a problem. Come on my show and discuss it.
I third that, and I've gone back and forth on Twitter, and I cut a video about when Mick Foley sold the Dickplex for Joey Ryan, and I was offended, and I thought Mick Foley disgraced his legacy by doing that. And I think that when top wrestlers, hey, look, who am I to tell anybody what to do for money? But when a Mick Foley or a Ken Shamrock defiles themselves by working a program with Joey Ryan and his stupid move.
I got to say this. This is what Cornette said. He said Ken Shamrock was given a phone call. He was offered a little bit of money. Then they told him he needed to take the Dickplex, and he said, oh, I got a money mark on the phone. You want me to take a Dickplex? It's going to be 10 times what you're asking me for.
Exactly.
And pay off from it.
Yeah.
He said, because if you don't want me to kick this guy's ass, legit, y'all better pay me to take his fucking move.
Absolutely.
You know damn well that if Shamrock wanted to, he would have mauled him.
Oh, God.
Sure, but the point
Even
is,
at 55 years old or however old he is. So
let me tell you something. Ken Shamrock is a legit badass, straight up.
damn right.
Okay? He's as shoot as you get.
Yep.
And if he wants to hurt you, there's nothing you can do about it.
So why don't we get into real
All
quick?
right. Yes. Full gear, Jeff. We were just getting into, Mikey and I were just we were barely scratched the surface of Full Gear. So this was AEW's first, real pay-per-view of the television era.
Yeah.
So let's get into Full Gear Fallout.
I'll say this.
Right, Jeff, and what went wrong?
Okay. My initial thought was this. If I had buddies come over that had never or had not watched wrestling in even 4 or 5 years, and I said, here's this new product, why don't we come on over old time's sake and watch it at pay-per-view? I don't think that would have hooked them.
Interesting that you say that.
I don't know that would have. I don't know that they would have turned around and said, well, geez, what day of the week is this coming on, Jeff? And I would have said, oh, Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. on TNT.
Yeah.
it's hard to explain to a fan who may have even, like I said, stopped watching 4 or 5 years ago where the current product has gone.
Right.
And for, you know, when you open up and your opening match is and you know, the Young Bucks are a very, very highly talented team, and you have them taking on the former LAX, who are now the
Pride and Power or something.
Pride and Powerful, P&P. And, you know, and they're doing, you know, they started out really good. You have one of, I don't even know which Young Buck it was. He was selling his knee, he got his knee hurt, he was selling the knee injury. And then all of a sudden he's able to turn around and he's going into a super kick. Dude, your knees just got fucked. You've been
and Matt Jackson. Yeah.
And then,
exactly.
Then you go, so, okay. And if this tag team, the Young Bucks, are supposed to be one of the best in the world,
right?
Promote them as
allegedly, yeah.
Then explain to me why their record, they haven't really won shit for matches since. And I get it, they're VPs, they don't want to come across as booking themselves in those kind of matches, but you got to look strong at the same time. Now here we go. This is one of my favorite. Now you got the finish. Young Bucks, I think P&P went over. Yeah, P&P went over. The pop of the night, and this is kind of funny and sad and funny all at the same time. Pop of the night goes to the Rock and Roll Express, hopping the railing, getting in the ring, getting their beat down, getting their comeback on Pride Powerful from getting their beat down a couple weeks earlier.
Right.
Ricky Morton hits an assisted Canadian Destroyer and then does a plancha through the middle rope, and that crowd erupts and goes into a rock and roll chant. They weren't chanting Young Bucks.
Right.
They're chanting for a tag team from back in the 1980s.
They're chanting for two guys that are 63 and 64 respectively.
And
think about that.
Ricky and Robert,
they're chanting for a couple of old men.
And there you go.
My age.
There's a level of respect, and then there's, okay, you know, so that match just to me made no sense. I mean, like, it was good, but then they just start going off the rails.
Where's the continuity? See,
that's what
and that's Mikey and I were really touched upon that a little bit in the previous episode. Consistency, continuity, emotional investment. Where is it? It's all but. It was it a good show? Was it worth $50? I don't know.
I'll say no.
Okay, so walk me through the next one. What happened next?
I'm trying to remember, actually. Adam Page and Pac.
Okay, we talked a little bit about Page and Pac. I love Adam Page. I think the guy's got star written all over him.
He does. And he just needs somebody to guide him along and pull him and teach him just a little bit. And he is going to go in a lot. He could go really far. He would. I mean, I would almost say he would do good to go over to NXT where they could polish him.
I think he goes to NXT, they kill him. He goes to NXT, his career's dead, over. He'll be working at McDonald's.
I wouldn't go that far.
I'm serious. Mikey and I touched on something a little earlier. I said to Mike that I thought Page in the next 2 to 3 months will be wearing the strap. I think he's got champion written all over him.
No, he does. I would agree with you. I don't know that I would. I don't know that that's where they're going to go with it. I think AEW right now, as crazy as it sounds, and people would say, "Oh, they don't need a second tier belt." I think they would do themselves good to come up with some sort of second.
No, absolutely not, Jeff. I disagree with you. There are too many make pretend title belts in wrestling. It's nothing more than a prop at that point.
But
AEW is keeping it simple.
Oh, no. Well, wait. I'll give you an example really quick of what I'm talking about. You go back to WWF. They came up with the Intercontinental title in 1981 or whatever it was that Pat Patterson won the faux tournament down in Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah, legend. Yeah.
They had the IC title, the world title, and the world tag belts all the way up until they merged with WCW. And that worked with them having only 3 titles. That's what I'm getting at.
Too many titles then, and I think it's too many today. Now you have, when I grew up, you had the World Championship and the Tag Team Championship, and then the only other recognized belt was the United States Championship, which is still around.
Well, the U.S. Championship that you grew up with is actually, we could get into a whole history of that because that was split up into every different territory had a U.S. champion.
No, I know.
So,
but whoever the United States Championship, whoever held the United States Championship in the NWA was the
Pac and Paige saying,
Now let's go back to, because I don't want to go down this rabbit hole.
No, but I think that Paige looks like a champion, has champion written all over him. I think he just needs a little bit of guidance to kind of get him to help his matches along just a little bit. And by that, I mean just where to put different things. He doesn't need 3 of his buckshot finishers done in a match.
Okay.
He doesn't even need to do that moonsault to the outside every match. He should save that for like the big world title match or whatever big match he may be having, and that would do him a world of good. Now, getting a win over Pac, that's huge because Pac has an established name that helped put Paige over even more. And I mean, go ahead. I want to hear Mikey's opinion on it.
Well, they had Paige win at the pay-per-view, and then 3 or 4 nights later on Wednesday night, they had Pac get a victory over Paige. So
you're right.
Pac is a series 2-1. So it's one of those things where you can say Paige is the first guy to get a victory over Pac, which is true. And Pac did beat Kenny Omega a couple of shows ago. So that's a big victory for Paige. But overall, the guy that kind of comes out on top one way or another is Pac. And I think Pac's a great athlete as well. I think both of those guys.
He knows how to sell. He's got great facials. Everything about him says wrestler. I mean, that dude is just, oozes charisma even about him. So
I would say if this was 30 years ago, can you imagine in the Les Thornton, Denny Brown era of NWA Mid-Atlantic Wrestling, if you had Pac as a junior heavyweight champion and competing with Les Thornton or Denny Brown or Mike Davis,
World Junior title would have meant those matches would have been right up there with Ric Flair.
Right, and he's a great athlete. I guess my thought is with going back to Adam Page, because I'm a Hangman Page fan as well. Wouldn't it be great if it wasn't Mike Messier managing his career as an on-character storyline? What about a J.J. Dillon?
I would love it. I think he'd be perfect.
Yeah,
absolutely.
J.J. Dillon managing Page.
I think a J.J. would be good. I mean, heck, I would even. What would it hurt for them to bring in a Kevin Sullivan and make him an evil cowboy?
Yeah, that would be great.
I mean, go with a little twist.
Yeah, I mean, the fun thing about wrestling.
And that's what I'm getting at. If you had somebody even older, like Shawn Spears has Tully Blanchard in his corner, right, who I'm sure, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is calling spots for him, is helping him out. So it wouldn't hurt Paige to have that manager in the corner that could help go, whoa, back it up some, calm it down,
mm-hmm.
Hit the gas, whatever you need, you know what I mean? Like giving them and more, because JJ helped call the majority of Luger's matches for him. And so, I mean.
Jeff, do you think that Tully's an effective manager?
I think they could get better use out of him, but I mean, I think right now he's being used as best as they know how to use him.
Yeah, you went right where I thought you were going to go. Yeah, I think they're wasting his usability.
I mean, I would have him on there cutting promos about how Shawn Spears is the perfect 10. He's the latest and the greatest. He's
right.
They need to use Tully for what he's good for right now, and that's his mouth. He can't get in the ring and go. You let him use his mouth and let him be that manager everybody wants to see get his ass kicked. that, you know, in the back of your mind could probably maybe still kick your ass. So you don't know.
Well,
that
AEW right now, and Mikey, I'd like your opinion on this too. AEW right now has 3 of the best mouthpieces in the business, and they're not using any of them. You've got Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson, and Cody Rhodes.
I don't know that they can use Arn right now.
There you go, Chris Jericho. You got 4.
Well, Cody was just used the week before the pay-per-view to do a big promo, and he said, you know, I went from unusable to goddamn deniable. So that, I mean, I think Cody is being used, and it goes back to what we said on the prior episode, which is,
yeah, I think he said I went from undesirable to undeniable.
Yep.
Right. And it's a thing where with AEW, because they're charging so much for these tickets to their television broadcasts for the live audience, they feel, I think, a need to satisfy the live in-house audience.
Yeah.
At the same time, you're trying to do a TV show and mix in some vignettes, promos, sketches, backstage stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to serve 2 masters at once. Now, I think, in my opinion, let the stories be told in the ring, meaning that I, as a fan, am so sick of 20 years of WWE promos tonight in this ring, like promos from WWE, backstage vignettes, that if the focus for AEW is on the other end of the spectrum, which is in-ring action at the cost of promos, I'm okay with that. I'll go with that for a while.
I think that's what they're trying to do. But here's the thing: you still need those promos to drive home that match that you're trying to get across as being why I need to watch it, why I need to.
Well, it used to be. Remember, Jeff, you and I actually had this conversation before. The art of the promo used to be used to get people in the building, to get, to talk people into a building.
Yeah.
Now it's to talk people into buying pay-per-views because there's no house. Like Mikey, you and I discussed in the first half of the show. There's no house business anymore. Yeah.
But I think, that would go back to what I have said that was hit on one of the panels on Starcast, where he had the star, basically the enhancement guys of the past, so George South, Bobby Starr,
right,
and Dwayne Gill. And Dwayne Gill said, if AEW wants to have a house show business, if WWE wants to get back their house shows, you need to bring back your job matches again.
We talked about that. Mike and I had that.
That's what I was going to say, is me and you have talked about it in length and why they would work and why, that's if they want to have the house show business. Personally, I would love to see AEW and WWE go down to only 4 or 5 pay-per-views in a year, like they used to do, and then they could drive it with, if you could bring back your job matches to where you could drive that pay-per-view to where you got 2 guys.
Yeah, that's not going to happen, Jeff, because remember something. The network is built on content.
Oh, well, no, I get that. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
No, but what they can do is buy a new tube of toothpaste.
They could try. So we'll go here to
they've thrown this much money into the okay?
Right.
It's another couple of $1 million at this point.
I got you. Well, okay.
It's not like Vince doesn't have it.
Well, amen to that, but I don't know that he wants to spend it.
Well, Mike and I discussed in part 1 of the show exactly what you and I are talking about right now, which is the lost art of the enhancement guy, the jobber. So you and I talked about this. We're doing, you and I are going to do a whole show on the lost jobber.
Right. Well,
Mikey, Jeff, your thoughts on the whole enhancement, aka jobber situation?
Well, there was another term that they've used, which is carpenter, and you talk about a guy like Mike Jackson on Georgia Championship Wrestling, 1984, and Mike Jackson was probably just as talented as anybody else.
Absolutely.
George South, and then you have guys that really were just tomato can type guys like the Mulkey brothers and guys like that. But there's a big range of enhancement guys or jobber guys, but Arn Anderson recently said it pretty well. Arn Anderson that said that he was an enhancement guy.
Yes, he did.
Because he was enhancing the Horseman or enhancing Ric Flair.
I was going to say, I would think that, I mean, the majority of wrestlers started out as enhancement talent back in the day.
Right.
Before they got their push. So,
Yeah.
For me, a lot of listening to you guys and myself, a lot of people have a soft spot in their hearts, whether it's Johnny Rods, Iron Mike Sharp,
right.
Barry O, whoever it is, SD Jones had an action figure made for him. He had two, actually, the old LTN figures. So there is a soft spot for the guy who gets beat. I think that's something that WWE has kind of reintroduced the last couple of years on Monday Night Raw, and even a guy, James Ellsworth, got a gig out of it for a couple of years because they liked how he jobbed to Braun Strowman. So it's interesting.
Well, you got to remember too, without enhancement talent, without the jobber, there's no one to put over. Johnny Rods every week faced a new guy. If you got past Johnny, you got a job.
Right.
His job was to make sure that you got your job.
Yep.
If you looked good against Johnny Rods, they hired you. Steve Lombardi had the same position.
X-Pac did years later. He wasn't a job guy, but X-Pac was that guy who was the measuring stick on where you went up on the card or down.
Exactly.
And, I mean, that again, another subject we could go into another podcast on. I mean, it's.
Yeah. Well, look, you could talk about Scott Hall. Hall said himself. Scott Hall said he was an upper mid-card guy. His job was to get people over. That was his job. He was a jobber.
He said, if you
Jeff, I want to take the stigma away from the term jobber. It's not a bad term.
No, it is. I got to agree with you. Even Barry Horowitz said it's a very ugly term in a lot of ways to those guys because they are enhancement. And they enhance it to whoever they made look better. I'm sorry.
Do you know anything about wrestling terminology? You know where the term jabroni came from?
Was it Spanish for jobber or something like that?
A jabroni is an Italian word that means one who does a job.
Oh, okay.
That's what literally what it means. A jabroni means one who does a job.
Right.
There you go. And
that's what they did. They did a job. That was their job.
No, here you go.
What's wrong with it?
In a nutshell, what it boils down to today, nobody wants to do the enhancement. Nobody wants to lay down. Nobody wants to be the underneath guy. They all want to be on top.
Bingo.
They all think that they need to be the superstar. They all want to be that guy getting that top pay. And they don't sit back and go, what is it that I need to do to get to that spot? And in the meantime, what can I do to earn my position to get there? And they're not willing to do that. They all want to be the one that goes ding, 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 and the winner is, and they want their name to get
a six-figure contract as soon as they walk in the door.
And you know what? They need, and that's that is a big problem with wrestling today. And but here it is too. It goes to the fans because then the fans go, "Oh, they're burying so and so. They're burying."
Question. Let me ask you a question, Jeff. If you're it ties right into what you and I are talking about.
Okay.
Tony Khan, a guy with a lot of money, more money than Vince McMahon. He opened the door.
Yep.
And threw six-figure contract to everybody who walked in the door. Everybody. Nobody.
Well, you know what? How much of that is wrestling talk and how much of that is legit?
Well, I think it's pretty legit.
I don't think that somebody an Orange Cassidy, pocket boy, he may be getting six figures. I don't know though that that certain other people are getting six-figure contracts.
Well, they're getting damn close to it.
I
If
mean,
you're
I'm
putting
just saying, I don't know.
$100,000 a year,
Okay, I don't know that the librarians are getting six figures.
I guarantee you they are.
I'd be surprised. I really would. Just because of how little that they're being used, I would be really surprised. But here's what I'm going to ask and get into, and or we could.
I was going somewhere with this.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Here's why I brought this up, because I'm going somewhere with this. Tony Khan's got a lot of money. He's throwing big money contracts. Okay, we'll put it that way. He's throwing big money contracts at everybody that walks in the door. Isn't he really doing himself a disservice by this?
Yes.
So why does he continue to throw mine just because he can?
No, because Cody and the Young Bucks and whoever else say we want our buddy to get paid who hadn't gotten made good money and he's been towing away on the indies for the last 15 years and he deserves it.
Clap, 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 clap. Isn't the term here money mark?
If that's the case, then Mike Messier deserves a
Oh, Mike. Mike. Say it again, Mike. Let me hear you loud and clear.
Money marked. The
There
money.
we go.
Yep. But for the record, folks, I didn't say that. Mike Messier did.
I mean, I'll say this.
Go ahead.
Guys that are on the same indie level talent that the AEW boys that are being used at NXT, they're only making $75,000 to $80,000 a year. They're not making six figures, and they're just as happy.
Well,
Give me 80 grand a year, I'll be ecstatic.
Here's the thing, guys. When AEW was formulating, 6 months or 5 months ago, whenever it was, maybe 7 months ago, I sent a resume to Tony Khan, and a cover letter. So I'd love to work for the company.
Hey, don't get me wrong. I would love to take some of his money too, but because I myself am guilty of sending him a letter and a resume and saying, hey, wherever I could be used, I'm willing and able and available. But
sure.
I did not send him a letter and resume for the record because I don't think he has a need on his staff for a full-time psychic.
Well, maybe to predict the future of his company, he might. I mean, that goes to something I've been asking people online, and I don't know if we want to do the full gear match by match thing, but I my question to you guys is,
I was trying, then we go down rabbit holes.
And whose fault is that, Ref?
All of ours.
will this company be in business in the year 2035?
I don't think so.
Psychic.
Not with the money that they're throwing around, and not.
I think Jeff is right. If Tony Khan and Cody and the Bucks, and even to some degree Jericho, because let's be honest about it, he's got a hand in this too. If they keep throwing this kind of money around, they're going to be broke in the next 10, 15 years. 10 years or less.
Tony isn't going to want to he is not going to take an L on the chin, but so many years and operate in the red.
I would hate to see Tony Khan having to go to Shahid Khan, his father, and saying, Dad, listen, I'm down to my last $900 million. Can you spot me a loan for a couple of billion? Look what happened, because it's happened. Let me just mention.
Look at Dixie Carter.
I was just going to say, let me throw a name at you, Jeff. Dixie Carter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that this isn't the shiny new toy that Tony Khan's got to play with and that he's just having fun.
And I think it's different. I think it's different, and here's why. Because Tony Khan is actually a wrestling fan. Dixie Carter was a straight-up money mark.
No, you're right. Okay, now we'll get back on track here really quick. We'll go with we had Sean Spears and Joey Janela.
Yes, Ref, bring me back on track because I like to go down rabbit holes.
Sean Spears that came out with Tully Blanchard looking like a champion, of course, and then he faces Joey Janela, who I just can't. I don't get his character. I don't know him. I don't like him. I
don't think he knows what his character is.
I mean, what about you, Mike?
I think Joey Janela was the type that did better on the real indie-rific circuit.
Yep.
And even whatever credibility he had as the bad boy was kind of ruined last summer on Twitter and Instagram when he and Enzo Amore had like this legitimate skirmish of sorts at a concert, at an outdoor concert. And I guess Enzo drew first blood with his Instagram post, because the way that Enzo put the footage up, it looked like Joey was backing away from Enzo. And so, given the smart mark nature of AEW, at least for me, if you were going to call this guy the bad boy, yet he's backing up from a fight with Enzo Amore at a rock concert, it kind of diminishes him. And
well, I'm going to give you guys, both of you guys, the Iggy on this.
Sure.
The whole thing was set up. The whole thing was a work.
The concert thing with him and Enzo?
Between both of them. It was set up.
They knew it would blow up on wrestling.
Exactly. It was just to get publicity for both of them. But speaking of Joe Janela, and I should say this, Jeff, because we've been in contact with Matt Bulldozer Tremont. That's Joey Janela's former tag team partner. Janela made his living as a hardcore wrestler.
There you go. And that's what I'm saying. I don't know that he fits into AEW.
Well, we're going to have we're going to find out more about Joey Janela from his former tag team partner, Bulldozer Matt Tremont, on an upcoming episode, probably in the next 2 weeks or so. Okay. So we've been in. Jeff has been in touch with him. I've been in touch with him. So we will have Matt Tremont on the show.
I'll this match was okay for what it was. They used Tully for the finish. They had him give the spike pile driver on the outside, leading to Shawn Spears getting the win.
Right.
And again, it was a match. You know what I mean? It just kind of seemed like they just threw it in there just to give them to a spot. I didn't know. Anyway, then we got into the three-way for the tag belts, and that was you had SoCal Uncensored, Scorpio Sky teaming up with Frankie Kazarian against the Lucha Brothers and Private Party. The Lucha SoCal was in there mainly to be ground control for the match. That's really what they were there for, because that match was all over the place.
Well, Mike and I had this conversation earlier. We both agree that there was probably one too many tag teams in that match.
Oh, no doubt about it. And the thing, though, is that AEW is trying to make it to where they're saying, oh, we're different and we're going to focus on tag teams. But I think they're doing their tag team division a disservice to a point.
Absolutely.
I mean,
those 3-team matches or 4-team matches, we've been seeing that at WrestleManias. Anytime the WWE, they had to put, 3 or 4 teams, Benjamin and Haas or whoever, on the WrestleMania pay-per-view, they'd always put up a championship 3 or 4 team match. And it's once again, less is more, and for me, I'm a big Pentagon Jr. fan, in particular, of all those guys. So I'd like to see Pentagon Jr. in a tag team match, just him and Rey Fenix.
Yes.
For the belts, 2-on-2.
Yep.
To me, it wasn't a great match. Other people seem to have enjoyed it, but it didn't do much for me.
To me, it just took away. I mean, I didn't enjoy it myself. I'm with you on that wholeheartedly.
Okay, so let's go through this quickly, Jeff.
Yeah. We got Rio and Sakura. I can't say her first name really. Emi Sakura.
Yeah, something like that. They told a good story with the vignettes, but
Yeah, and Rio is great. I mean, she's a talented young lady, but they just, to me, they don't use her right for the size that she is. She should be doing selling a lot more, and then when she hits her moves, they can be small and impactful. Like, her double stomps make sense. That's taking the wind out of your opponent. But I don't know. Anyway, that was just a typical, again, I wasn't into it. I'm not into the Japanese women's scene. So that did not grab my attention.
Yeah.
Now give me Asuka all day from the WWE. I'll take her. I'll take Io Shirai. The WWE Japanese girls, they know what they're doing. I mean,
well, I will say this as a general statement. Much as it pains me, I think the WWE women on SmackDown, Raw, and NXT are far superior than than AEW. I'm just going to put that out there.
They take the cake right now, hands down. And
Yeah,
then,
they really do.
Okay, then we're going to go into a match that I could go down and really get the Jericho and Cody match was great, and I loved it, and I loved everything about it. The lead up to it, the build up, the promos, the match itself. Jericho comes out looking like a rock star champion. Cody looking like the challenger that he was. And they had the majority of this, I'll say this, the majority of AEW fans from online that were buying the pay-per-view, to everybody in that audience, the majority of them were convinced that Cody was going to win the belt that night because of how much they had stacked the deck in his favor. Oh, we got the judges out there. Oh, they must be going. All of a sudden, oh, great, they're going to go to time limit draw. And I'm going, Jericho hadn't seen a 60-minute match since he got started. He is not going to go 60 minutes. There's no way in hell. And then
that wasn't going to happen.
So then you go, okay. Oh, well, if, and then Cody adds in, if I lose, I will never get another world title shot. The minute he said that, I said, they're setting it up for him. There's so many other angles now that they can go.
Right.
I think it was funny is that one of the pops of the night went to Cody's mom, who got her slap in on Jericho and called him a motherfucker or whatever it was she said to him.
Yeah.
And that was awesome. And I mean, Jake Hager, the former Jack Swagger, out there as the muscle for Jericho, as like the bodyguard muscle for that group. Just again adds to it. I mean, he adds to that whole package deal. Cody eating it on the hard way and
yeah.
All of it, just a great, fantastic match. They should have ended it right there, gone home, fade to black. We're done.
Yeah.
End of the night. But
yeah, well, I'm not that way either, brother.
But no.
You.
Gotta give you John Moxley, Kenny Omega.
Well, you're leaving out the best part of the Cody Jericho match.
Oh, wait, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Then here we go. The best part of the night. Cody's best friend, who comes out there with him, threw in the towel. He jumps in the ring. I'm sorry, buddy. I didn't mean to. You just look like you couldn't take it no more. I'm so sorry. And he kicks him right in the balls. Crowd is booing MJF out of the building at this point.
They knew all night long.
And whether or not they were plants or not, the throwing of the fact, I don't care if they were plants or not, the fact that he got whizzed in the head with a couple of drinks added to the effect. And if they were plants, God bless them for planting them there. If they weren't, God bless MJF for getting that kind of emotion out of the fans. And you know what? As I said, that right there sold everything, because what red-blooded male could not relate to, damn, my best friend turned on me. He made me lose my world title match that I'll never get another shot ever again. Not only that, he kicked me in the balls, the most chicken shit way you could ever fight a man heads up.
Yep.
He kicked me in the balls. And now they're going to be off and running, and you're going to have MJF and Cody cutting promos on each other like you've never seen before. And Jericho could set up for whoever he wants next.
Well, I didn't like that whole thing anyway. What bothered me was Cody is the most over baby face in the group, right?
Yes.
But his best friend is a heel?
Well, he was a heel to the fans.
Makes sense.
No. What it was supposed to be was he was a heel to the fans, but to Cody's face, oh, I love him. Let me hug him and kiss him and be the nice guy. But behind your back, I'm really the asshole that everybody knows I am.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
they explored that on their Being the Elite show, for what it's worth. They did do vignettes of like MJF was come over for dinner.
Yes, he ate steak dinner with them, all kinds of different things. Yeah.
Right. So like once again, it's a deal where like if you were watching Being the Elite or highlights of it and you were keeping up with all their storylines that were on YouTube, then they did do character development. If you've only been watching the AEW 2-hour Dynamite shows, they haven't brought some of that being the elite stuff to the TV screen. And once again, to me, it's just a fact of they have limited screen time.
But no, that's actually very, very, very right. You are very, very on the money on that one, Mike. I could not agree with you more. Now, real quick, I got to ask you your opinion on the Moxley and Kenny Omega match.
Okay.
I got my own. I want to hear your take.
I like the match. I mean, this to me was a retro 1995 Japanese death match. Mick Foley, Terry Gordy, Mick Foley, Terry Funk. To me, you don't do this match once a month. You don't do it once a week. You may not even do it once a year. But we still talk about Mick Foley and The Undertaker, and those guys risked their lives, or at least Foley did.
Well,
This match, to me, it was the match that brought it all together. It was the match that made the pay-per-view worthwhile. I've read the criticism of it afterwards. And look, I wrestled very few matches, Jeff. I would never do anything like those guys did in that match. But if they want to risk their lives or their permanent injuries or their health for my enjoyment, I forgave Kenny Omega after this match for wrestling the doll in Japan. I mean, I think Omega and Mox deserve my applause anyway.
I mean, well, wouldn't you agree though that Omega's not meant to do that hardcore style? That's
Nobody
not
is. Nobody in their right mind is meant to do that style.
But I think Moxley prides himself in that.
Yeah, I think part of Moxley's thing, Jeff, coming back to the non WWE world and being John Moxley again, is that now he's going to do what he wants. Now he's not going to be restrained by bad promos about eating pizza with a homeless person and so forth. That we heard talking about.
Though, that they're kind of, I mean, they're trying to set it up. I mean, because he already put out the challenger for who's got the balls to basically face me next.
I think it's got to be Moxley versus Jericho at the next pay-per-view in January or February of 2020. That's what I would like to see.
Oh, same here. I would love to see that. I would love to see Moxley and Jericho. I think that's where they could go. But I mean, Wednesday night he put out the challenge and it was accepted, and I think it was by Janela, but I'm not sure. But he said he wanted basically another hardcore style match against whoever.
Was it Darby Allin? Was it?
Yeah, it was Darby. You're right, Darby Allin. I'm sorry.
He won like some 6-man match or 4-man match, and then Darby said he'd fight Mox or something.
Yeah, and it's. I hope that they're not going to pigeonhole Moxley into just doing hardcore matches. I really do, because that would really suck because he's above that.
Well, I think then, to me, I could be wrong, but if AEW is putting all this emphasis on creative control for the wrestlers, and this is the Ellis Island for professional wrestlers, then why doesn't Moxley? It seems to me Moxley has enough clout to call his own shots in that promotion.
That's what I'm saying is, and I would think that he would want to be above doing these matches. Now, granted, I'll say this: you compare it to the IWA death matches of '95. Far cry from it, because those matches, they were at least bleeding. These guys didn't have really hardly any blood coming out of that match.
Oh, they had enough for me. I mean, they took the barbed wire to their backs, and
they did. But I mean, you could definitely tell though that was. I mean, like when they did like the death match over in Japan, when he got power bombed into the shards of glass, you saw shards of glass sticking in the guy's back.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Jeff, let me ask you a question. There was some, I forget who wrote it. It might have been, I don't know, it might have been Bleacher Report. It wasn't Meltzer. Somebody had alluded to the fact or suggested, and Mike, you may know something about this too, that it wasn't real barbed wire, that it was like stage barbed wire.
Alvarez speculated that with Meltzer. Alvarez.
Do we know whether this was like legit barbed wire?
Well, I would argue that it wasn't like totally legit, because if it was, they would have gotten totally tangled up in it and had to be cut out of it, and they were able to crawl out of it.
He's talking about what Alvarez was suggesting was that they used legitimate barbed wire for the stuff in the ring, the stuff that was tied on the weapons. And then when they brought out that table of mesh, that table of death barbed wire, that could have been, rigged or safety barbed wire, if there is such a thing. I don't know the answers to that. I mean, to me, I thought it was effective. I thought that match brought the whole thing together. I got a macabre or a gothic chuckle when they would cut to young women in the crowd, 25-year-old goth chicks who are at this wrestling show with their platonic boyfriends, and the women are turning away in disgust. That made me laugh. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, no, I agree. But I've definitely seen what I was getting at is I've definitely seen more gruesome matches.
Oh yeah, I have too.
But let's give the AEW credit for all the stuff that we're saying that they haven't built all their storylines. If there was a storyline that came together over the course of 6, 7, 8 months, it would be this. Because
absolutely.
Right.
I saw more gruesome matches than that recently. In fact, in Mike Messier's film, which I will plug for him, called Wrestling Sun.
Thank you.
That you can find on YouTube.
I appreciate that. Wrestling Sun on the Mike Messier YouTube channel. The Eliminator John Cronus, Ruckus, some really cool people. Killer Kowalski.
Special appearance by Killer Kowalski.
Yes, Killer Kowalski.
You got John Cronus before he died.
Yeah, Cronus. Well, Cronus actually plays my father in this movie, believe it or not. And Cassie Strader was his real-life girlfriend, played by Mom. I played Little Jack. I played a character named Little Jack that's actually based on Jack Von Erich. Jack Von Erich was the youngest Von Erich that died.
Jeff, you have to watch. You've got to watch this movie, Jeff. It's a good one.
I will.
Thank you. So I guess, Jeff, my take on the match on Moxley Omega was that it made my investment, my staying home on a Saturday night looking at my computer screen for 4.5 hours worth it. What was your take on it?
Again, I think they could have ended at the Jericho and Cody match and I would have been content. I think that they went a little bit over the top with the gimmicks that they used. That's just my opinion. And I'm not one for that style match anyway, but they had so many gimmicks. It was gimmick after gimmick after gimmick. And it was like, okay, when are y'all going to stop and finally just go home with this?
Yeah, that was one of the complaints, Jeff, that I heard.
And then the one part that I would say, you want to separate yourselves from WWE, then why did you use the same WWE spot that they used in their unsanctioned match of the pulling back of the mat and exposing the wood and doing moves on the wood to add to the danger of it when they just did that with Gargano and Ciampa back at NXT TakeOver. And that match got a 5-star rating, mind you, by Meltzer. So, to me, when Kenny Omega did the flip off the top and he ate it right there on the wood, face, boom, head first, go home. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, done. Instead, they went into another couple sequences. Why? What was the point?
Just because they could? Well, just the answer, the simple answer is just because they could.
Well, yeah, I agree, but it just
it was unnecessary. Absolutely.
To me, it just took away from it a little bit. But I mean, I like Kenny Omega. I do. I like him a lot. I like Jon Moxley. I hope that Moxley doesn't get pigeonholed and doing nothing but hardcore matches. I would love to see Kenny Omega and Moxley in a regular match, but I agree with what Mike had said. If you want to know where I think that they should go with it, I think Moxley and Jericho would be your logical pay-per-view build-up. And if you're going to do a hardcore style match at your next pay-per-view, you better damn sure make sure it's between MJF and Cody, and it needs to be a bloodbath. It really does.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't need to be settled there. They need to settle it old school style. Put them in a steel cage. Lights out. Yeah.
Well, any closing thoughts from either of you guys?
Yes, I'll throw in a closing thought real quick. It's just, I hear what you were saying, Jeff, the ref, and Angelo, you seem to agree that the match could have had a little bit less to it. To me, it's a thing where if this promotion is kind of run by the boys, so to speak, like at least the top guys, Moxley's, Jericho's, Cody's, these type of guys are more or less calling their own spots.
Yeah.
Then that type of anarchy, that type of feeling, that vibe, if you would, I like that vibe. I like that if the match is 5 minutes or 7 minutes too long, like Solomonster said, I'd rather give them their 5 or 7 minutes of time rather than that WWE Tonight in this Ring promo, Miz versus R-Truth, 7-minute Intercontinental title match every time. I just prefer a more anarchist wrestling presentation. So I enjoyed it.
I hear what you're saying, and I have yet to go to an AEW show, so I can't say that I know the feeling. But a lot of people that have gone, and even wrestlers that have taken part or been at an AEW show, they've compared it a lot to the old atmosphere of an ECW show. Of the fans are just that ravenous for that action and wanting to be, supporting the boys, and the boys, just like happy locker room, and everybody kind of not so much doing their own thing, but supporting one another and what all they're doing out there. And then the fans feeling like they are a part of something genuine and real and want, that they organic almost.
Yeah.
And I can see that. I really can. I heard somebody even, it was on a podcast, and they said this is ECW with Paulie, if Paulie had a budget. So
exactly.
I could see that too. I don't know that Tony Khan could give the rah-rah speeches that Paulie could back in the day, but
well, there are plenty of people there, Jeff, that will give those rah-rah speeches.
Absolutely.
Speaking of which, Jeff, give our rah-rah speech. Where can people find us?
Oh, they can find us any and all of your major platforms that you can download any of your podcasts on, from Stitcher to Spotify to Podbean to Apple iTunes to your fillings in your teeth on down. You can find us anywhere and everywhere available. We're on YouTube as well, Wrestling with the Future. And you can find us on Twitter, Wrestling with the Future, or at Wrestling with the Future. And
Jeff, tell everybody about Jack Victory Part 2.
Jack Victory Part 2 is coming up, I believe, this week Wednesday.
Yep. Tuesday night is when we're going to speak to him. And the show, it will drop on Wednesday. But Jack promised us an entire show of wrestling road stories.
And just stories of him and the boys. And what I'm hoping to do is basically have a name and just go over names and just say, hey, what do you got to say about this guy? I ain't looking for him to shoot and bury people. I just want to hear, me and him were going down the road at 2 a.m. and throwing beer bottles at stop signs as we rode by, and that kind of thing.
Some of the upcoming guests on the show will be Bulldozer Matt Tremont, CZW Original, Hardcore Legend, and Icon.
Yep.
We will have Mrs. Bruiser Brody, Barbara Goodish, on the show. That's a big one. And we will have Rico Costantino, and we will be recording with Rico in the next week or so.
I have coming up here also, this is going to be within the next month or two, whatever, as we're lining up our guest. We got an original from the original Glow Show, Grimlina. She was in season 4, trained by Colonel Nanuchka. Hopefully, cross our fingers, good Lord willing, even if it's 10 minutes, we'll get Mick Foley on here. If we can.
We got Mick Foley all over the place.
However, I don't know if he needs me to promise a donation to his Christmas fund or what, but
I'll do it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll make it, trust me.
All right. But on that note, I would like to say thank you for coming on, Mike. It was a pleasure always, and I would love to have Mike come on even once a week and just go over the shows or whatever.
Frequent guest on the show. Mike, plug your website, Mike, and your movies and whatever else you got going on.
MikeMessier.com. Thanks, Jeff the Ref. Thanks, Angelo. Avalonia Festival. If any filmmakers are out there, guess what? I have categories for both MMA films and pro wrestling films. So if people want to enter the Avalonia Festival, there's categories for pro wrestling films. That's how dedicated I am. The festival takes place December 8th in Jacksonville, Florida. But you can find distancefromavalon.com or if you are on Film Freeway, look for Avalonia Festival. MikeMessier.com has all your Mike Messier stuff. Messier Peace Theater is on my website. You can find that. One of the Boys, the Ox Baker movie, Ox Baker, One of the Boys, just released by the Vince Russo YouTube channel this morning. It had like 120 views within the first hour or so. And that's a nice, quick ascension. And I'll be doing more things with Vince Russo's YouTube channel, hopefully. I think that's about it. I just wanted to say real quick, I did read 2 books about Bruiser Brody in the last year and a half. Great books. And one of them is upstairs, and I just looked at it, So I'm fascinated to hear Bruiser Brody's wife, widow, discuss Frank and his career.
Yeah.
And his son, who's probably, I guess, 25 or 30 now, or maybe a little older, but facially looks a lot like Bruiser Brody.
Oh, yeah, he does.
Yeah, so.
He looks like his daddy.
Real quick,
Well, I want to take this opportunity, Jeff, to thank Mike for including Wrestling with the Future in just about every Facebook wrestling group page that you can think of, because he is blanketing us everywhere.
He has, and I really appreciate
that. And Mikey, here's a challenge for you. If you can get Vince Russo to appear on this show, I will kiss your bare ass on Skype for the world to see.
Can I have another payoff besides that? Can I have like some other payoff?
I was gonna tell everybody, you can also find Mike Messier over on his YouTube channel, Mike Messier.
Oh, thanks.
And he gives a very opinionated shoot, and I'll let everybody go tune in on CM Punk and his return to the WWE/Fox.
Yeah, that's a good one.
We'll just say this. Basically, Mike doesn't give a fuck.
He's an angry wrestling fan.
I'm the angry wrestling fan, and when I'm with you guys, I'm in a good mood because we're talking wrestling. But sometimes when my thing is hypocrisy, guys, and I'll be the first to admit that I'm a hypocrite too. We all are. But CM Punk has been talking so much trash, and rightfully so, for so many years. They sent him his dismissal papers on his wedding day, and he Colt Cabana and all this stuff. And we turn around, and I guess those UFC paychecks aren't coming in. So here he is with it looked like the extras from American Hustle with Renee Young in the pantsuit, and he's dancing around with Renee Young, and he's looking like he's boxing a Piper quote. He looks silly to me. It's just not. I don't know. I think.
Well, I need to tell everyone though, in full disclosure, and this is a legal thing I have to do. In full disclosure, CM Punk does not work for the WWE. He works for Fox Television.
Fair enough.
But he works for Fox Television with WWE approval. They had to approve his position at Fox.
That's correct.
To receive the backstage access.
Yep.
When he works a match with Shane McMahon at WrestleMania, which I believe Dave Meltzer predicted, if and when that happens, then this whole CM Punk's not working for WWE, he's working for Fox. That clarity will be seen in the future for what it is, if that happens.
If that happens. On that note, we will see you next episode. Happy wrestling, everybody, and we are Wrestling with the Future. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.